Hello and welcome to all of our Gold viewers who are here with us today. I'm Kristen Schwartz, licensed midwife and MC here at Gold, and I'm here with LaShanda Dandrich to talk about her upcoming presentation titled Mind Over Milk, Counseling Lactating Persons Through Milk Supply Concerns. Welcome, LaShanda.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
It is wonderful to have you here. You are part of our add-on package, Unlocking Milk Production, Keys to Clinical Assessment and Management. And your part there is the milk supply concerns. And we'll talk about that in just a moment here. I want to briefly ask you about your background. You are an IBCLC, but you're also the co-founder of the Lactation Learning Collective and a training coordinator for Chocolate Milk Cafe National. So talk about that a little bit here for us.
I ooh, it's so much. So obviously I became an IBCLC, and with that, it's I think just it should be becoming an IBCLC to like the general parenting experience. It's not just like a straight line or tunnel vision thing, right? There's so many things incorporated in like lactation support. So becoming an IBCLC, I found that I did pathway 3 and it was a little difficult or challenging to get mentors and such. And so
Mhm.
I was like, oh, well, how can I, support that? And I'm wanting to do that. So that's how Lactation Learning Collective was born. It's myself and two other, Allison and Patricia, who we do it together. And we all just had this love of wanting to grow the profession and wanting to make it a little bit easier for people to like have find mentorship so they can get
Mhm.
their hours sooner and be able to sit the exam. Also within that, we know that lactation support or just support in general for anything like representation matters, and so coming in to the profession as a Black IBCLC, I didn't see many people who looked like me, and so I
Right.
was like, what was that about?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a big mission for Lactation Learning Collective too, to help diversify the field. And
Mhm.
then with Chocolate Milk Cafe was pretty much along the same lines of, it wasn't until I, started feeding my daughter and going down this road of lactation professional that I learned that, here in America, it's the quote unquote, Black women don't breastfeed. So I put them in my quotes because that's not true, because I was a Black woman who was breastfeeding. So, finding I didn't have that support group at that time, but I came upon it within my career. I met Mama Hakima, who started Chocolate Milk Cafe, and loved the concept, and it was definitely needed. So we opened up a chapter, and now we're a nonprofit, and we're in 8 states. So it's
Fantastic.
growing, and again, it's about that representation to help support people. Again, meeting people where they are, whatever is going to help you get to your goal.
Meeting people where they are, that is so so important. And also representation, you mentioned that you want to be there for your community, and your community should have that support, right? So I feel that is so valuable what you're doing, and so fantastic. So thank you so much for sharing that here with us as well. Now in your career, and teaching, mentoring others, be it mentoring young baby IBCLC, let's call them that way, and families, of course. Milk production is, of course, a huge issue, and is it really, and that's something we struggle with often, is it really milk, a low milk production, or is it perceived low milk production? What is really going on? So talk to me a little bit about what you've seen there.
Yeah, ever since I started, you would just have even so I was lucky enough to here in New York do my hours in a hospital. So even from baby being born, right?
Hmm.
Parents having that question of I don't have enough.
Right.
And at the time, like I said, I was doing my getting my hours, and so I was learning from a textbook, and then putting that stuff into practice while I was on the floor. And it's like, okay, well, colostrum isn't supposed to be a lot, and where is this disconnect? Like, why
Hmm.
do you think that you don't have enough when we live in this society where everything is supersized, right?
Supersized, yes. Hmm.
We think that quantity is really, what is more prevalent instead of the quality of something.
Hmm.
So, yeah, just that disconnect and wanting to know like why, people feel this way and why it's so prevalent, and then helping them dispel
Hmm.
those myths, and really connect and bring it back to basics. I always say we don't always need the bells and whistles, like keep it simple. And
Oh, I love
being
that.
able to, I love the little belly balls where you can show people like, oh, and so you see that like kind of spark that goes into their brain, and that light
Yeah,
bulb
yeah,
is like,
yeah,
oh yeah, why
yeah.
am I thinking that I need this much? But again, if we circle back, it's, those societal pressures of, again, thinking that, more is better. And as I mentioned in the presentation, that, those companies that
Yes.
market in such a way, and they're doing it in such a way to undermine you, right?
Hmm.
Get those
Absolutely.
little seeds in there so you can,
Yeah,
you know
yeah. So the
revert
seed,
to that
this
supplementation.
the seeds of doubt, and you want to be a good
Yeah.
mother, right? And you want to
Yeah.
do the right thing, and you don't want to starve your baby, all this guilt pressure there. And also what's happening on social media, going back to milk production, as in often women, or the lactating person thinks they have to have this huge fridge and
Mhm.
freezer full of milk because they've seen it somewhere, right, online, and they've seen the pictures of it, and they go like, oh my God, I'm not like that, I'm not producing enough, so something must be wrong with me. And you probably have
Yeah.
seen that a lot too.
Yes, one of my for the last couple of years, I believe I open up a lot of my prenatal lactation classes, my lactation basic class. I open up the class with, I want you to erase the social media pictures from your brain right away. And so let's do that. And now we get into what is real.
Hmm.
But yeah, those images, and
Yeah.
again, just breaking it down simplest for people, in
Uh-huh.
that as a lactation consultant, when we see that, we know the backstory. It's either
Right.
a multip, right? Or
Hmm.
it's a parent who's not really resting. Because
Right.
if you once you start that overproduction like that, right, you're never going to be really comfortable, because your breasts are always going to be making milk. You're always going to have to be pumping or putting a baby on. And so when you start to make the connections for them in that way, it's
Hmm.
like, oh, do I really need that?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, absolutely. And keeping, I love what you're saying there, LaShanda, keeping it simple, keeping it really, explaining the background. Do I really need this? Is it, or is this just, that looks cool on Instagram, but do I really need this? So I feel like one of the key items would also be that, that we see more realistic pictures out there. Push those realistic pictures out
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
Instagram and social media, right? So
Yeah.
people see what's normal, what's realistic, what is actually needed, and instead of
Yeah.
these supersized goals that we're
Yeah.
setting that
I
are
often tell
unrealistic.
people, getting people to, trust your body, and
Yeah.
your body knows, right? Nature knows that you had one fetus or two fetuses, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's what you're going to make milk for, right? It's the outliers that are true
Yes.
oversuppliers, right?
Yeah.
It's not the norm, right?
Yeah, that is so true. LaShanda, your presentation is full of really, really good, information that is really usable in your in clinic and everyday situations there. And I want everyone to come to that presentation, get the lecture pack, and watch you present on the topic. But before I let you go, is there a little tip or a nugget of advice you can give our viewers here, with regards to milk supply, the topic of milk supply?
A little nugget of advice. You're putting me on the spot here. Um, again, I think just keep it simple, right?
Hmm.
Again, I think we sometimes we get super excited, and I was one of
Yeah.
those, new IBCLCs too, or when you go to a workshop or a webinar, you want to just kind of regurgitate everything, but
Hmm.
really look at that family in front of you, that dyad, their situation, and tailor it to what they need in that moment.
Hmm.
And figure out ways to plant seeds to help them like throughout that journey. So whether you're seeing them, people reach out at 27 weeks to take your class, or 37 weeks, or they're 7 weeks in, like what can I do in this moment that I have with them that's going to not only help them in this moment, but plant that seed to help them blossom a little bit more throughout their journey, whatever it may be.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so very much for sitting down here with me, chatting about your topic here, Mind Over Milk Counseling Lactating Person Through Milk Supply Concerns. Thank you so much, LaShanda.
Thank you.
And for our viewers now, if you are interested in learning more about this presentation and the other presentations in the lecture pack, right now this lecture pack is an add-on package for our Gold Lactation online conference here that we get started on April 2nd. So check that out at goldlactation.com. We have a free keynote presentation that is open access. Make sure you reserve your seat and also share that with your colleagues and friends in the field. And we hope to see everyone at the conference. Thank you so much again, LaShanda, and bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.